Welcome to the first session of Programming for Problem Solving. The topic of the day is components of computer system. The components of a computer system are broadly categorized into five. Input unit, that is responsible for accepting the input from the user. Store data, that is the storage unit, that is responsible for storing the data and the intermediate results. Data processing, it is used for performing arithmetic and logic operations on data in order to convert them into useful information. Output unit, responsible for displaying the output to the end user. And control unit, responsible for controlling the sequence in which the operations are performed by the four units: input, storage, processing, and output. This is the block diagram of the computer system, which consists of an input unit and an output unit. Both of these units are connected to a central processing unit, which comprises of three units: memory unit, control unit, and arithmetic and logic unit. A central processing unit is considered as the brain of the computer. CPU performs all types of data processing operations. It stores the data, intermediate results, and the instructions. It also controls the operations of all parts of the computer. Now, CPU itself consists of three components: ALU, MU, and CU. What is an ALU? ALU is responsible for performing all the arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Basically, an ALU consists of two circuits capable of performing the addition and subtraction, and generally only addition, and the multiple ALUs are there in a single CPU to enable the fast computation of the arithmetic operations. The complex operations can also be achieved with the help of these circuits. A control unit. A control unit is responsible to control the operations of all parts of a computer, such as the sequence in which the operations are performed and the types of operations that are performed. But a control unit in itself does not perform any operation. What are the various functions performed by the control unit? It is responsible for controlling the transfer of data and instruction between various units of a computer, managing and coordinating all the units of the computer, obtaining the instructions from the memory, interpreting them, and directs the operation of the computer. It also communicates with the input-output devices for transfer of data and results from storage. Memory unit. This unit can store instructions, data, and intermediate results. The unit supplies information to other units of the computer when needed. So there is a primary memory and a secondary memory. The primary memory is basically responsible for storing the instructions and the intermediate results, whereas the secondary memory is responsible for storing the large amount of data permanently on the disks. It also stores the instructions, but for execution, those instructions have to be brought into the main memory before execution. What are the different functions of the memory unit? It stores all the data and instructions required for processing. It stores the intermediate results, stores the final results of processing before the results are transmitted or transferred to the output unit. All inputs and outputs are transmitted through the main memory. Input devices. Input devices are the external devices connected to the computer system The main objective of these input devices is to pass the information that must be processed by the central processing unit. So let's have a look at some of the input devices one by one. The first device is a keyboard. A keyboard is an input device which helps to input data to the computer. The layout of a keyboard is like a traditional typewriter. It has all the alphabet and digit keys. Along with that, it has an additional set of functional keys that helps in providing the control signals to the CPU. It does not necessarily mean that it is going to direct, but certain instructions they can be inputted with the help of function keys. The next is a mouse. Mouse is a pointing device. It is a cursor control device having a small box size shape, and it has a light at the bottom which acts as a sensor to control the movement of the cursor on the screen. Generally, it has two buttons, left and the right button, and a wheel is present between the buttons. A mouse can be used to control the position of the cursor, and the main idea is to select the different items from a graphical user interface. The third type of input device is called a joystick. A joystick is also a pointing device, and it sometimes is used to play games. A joystick is used to move the cursor position on the monitor screen. It is a stick having a spherical ball at its both lower and upper ends. The lower spherical ball moves in a socket. The function of a joystick is similar to that of a mouse, but it is mainly used in computer-aided design and playing computer games. The next is a light pen. As you can see in the figure, it is just like a normal pen, but it can be connected to the computer device. It is used to select a displayed menu item or draw pictures on the monitor screen. The next is a trackball. A trackball is an input device that is mostly used in notebook or the laptop instead of the mouse. So sometimes a laptop consists of an area which includes the trackball. So you do not need a mouse to select the items. The trackball can be an alternative to the mouse, but still you can connect an external mouse to act as an cursor device. The next is scanner. Scanner is an input device which works more like a photocopy machine. It is used when some information is available on a hard paper and it is to be transferred to the hard disk or the computer. So scanner takes the input of a hard paper which has an image or a document on it, and the same image can be transferred to the computer using a scanner. The next is a microphone. Microphone is an input device to input sound that is then stored in the digital form. It is used for various applications such as adding sound to a multimedia presentation. In fact, in this lecture, we are using a microphone to record the lecture. You are able to listen to it through a different device that has been discussed later and is a output device. So the voice input can be given with the help of the microphone. Next is magnetic ink card reader. Is generally used in banks as there are large number of checks to be processed every day. The bank's code number and check number are printed on the checks, and with a special type of ink that contains the particles of the magnetic material that are machine readable. So a MICR is able to read a special type of ink, and that ink is used to print certain numbers on the paper. For example, like the check number. The next is OCR. OCR is an input device used to read a printed text. OCR scans the text optically character by character, converts them into a machine readable code, and stores the text on the system memory. The next is a barcode reader. This pointing device you must have seen in a lot of retail shops. A barcode reader is a device used for reading the barcoded data in the form of light and dark lines. Barcoded data is generally used in labeling goods, numbering of the books, and etc. The next is optical mark reader. It is a special type of optical scanner used to recognize the type of mark made by a pen or pencil. It is used where one out of a few alternatives is to be selected and marked. It is specially used for checking the answer sheets of the examinations having multiple choice questions. So what is an output unit? What we saw was an input unit, that is an external unit that is connected to the computer system and it provides the input. Now we have an output unit which is responsible for displaying the output to the end user. Now the output can both be in the form of a hard copy, that means a paper, a printed paper, or you can see the output in the form of a soft copy that is on the screen. So we will have a look at some of the output devices. The first output device is a monitor, and monitor is used to display not only the output but also the input in certain cases as provided by the user. This is the most common computer output device. It creates a visual display by the use of which users can view the processed data. There are a number of monitors that were available. Some of them are outdated now, such as cathode ray tube, flat panel displays, and what you see on the screen is just like an LCD or an LED. You will see this output device connected to each and every computer system, and it is the most commonly used output device. The next is speaker. A speaker can be inbuilt within the computer system, or you can connect an external speaker to your system as well. Now, the fact that you are able to listen to my lecture is because there is a speaker either connected externally to your system or you are using an inbuilt speaker. So what is a speaker? Speaker is an output device that enables you to hear the voice. The next is a projector. A projector is a display device that projects a computer created image on another surface. A computer projector is just like a monitor. A monitor is able to show the output on its surface, whereas a projector with the help of light is able to project the image on some other surface, such as a wall or some screen. The computer transmits the image data to its video card, which then sends the video image to the projector. It is most often used for the presentation when you want a larger display for a large number of gathering. The last type of output device is called a printer. A printer is used to generate a hard copy version of the processed data. It can both be a simple text document or an image. There are a wide range of printers that are available, as you can see in the image. Some are non-impact and some are impact printers. Laser printers is a category of non-impact printers, whereas desk jets are an example, or inkjets are an example of the impact printers. There are many other categories of printer. I request that you should go through certain notes, then you will be able to find how many types of printers are available and which of them are used in which scenario. There are certain printers which are used for even generating the copy of the bill. They hit the paper so hard that there is a carbon paper in the middle, and you can find the original and the carbon copy image of the same. Some of these printers are also known as dot matrix printers. Next, we are going to discuss about memory. So what is a primary memory? There are basically two types of memories that we have. One is called the primary memory and the second one is called the secondary memory. What is a primary memory? It is also referred to as the main memory, and it is volatile in nature. Volatile means the data stored in the primary memory is available only for the time the system has the power on. Once the light goes off or you switch off the computer system, the data stored in the main memory is lost. So how many types of main memory you have? You have two types of main memory. One is called RAM and the other one is called ROM. RAM stands for random access memory because of the random selection of the memory location. You can randomly read any data. It performs both the read and write operations on the memory, and it is basically used for faster access of the data and stores the data temporarily. Now there are two categories of RAM, as you can see in the list. One is called dynamic RAM, DRAM, and the other one is called the SRAM. DRAM is a type of random access memory used in computing devices. It is made up of capacitors and transistors. This type of memory is generally slower than the SRAM when it comes to accessing the data, and also it is much cheaper in terms of cost than the SRAM. Some of the features of the DRAM are: it is less expensive as compared to SRAM, as I have already told you. The data written in DRAM is at the byte level, and it requires less power than the SRAM. But we generally prefer SRAM. It holds data in a static form. That is, as long as the memory has the power, it is not needed to refresh it again and again. The static RAM provides faster access to the data, but it is more expensive than the DRAM. And it does not use capacitors. It is highly recommended for the use of PCs, peripheral equipments like printers, LCD screens, hard disk buffers, and the router buffers and buffers in CD-ROM and CD rewritable devices. So we have two types of RAM. In terms of speed, we prefer the SRAM, and in terms of cost, we prefer the DRAM. Read-only memory is also a primary memory. Please do not get confused by the name. If you cannot write into any memory, obviously there is no point in reading from the memory. Then why it is called a read-only memory? Because a user is not allowed to perform the write operation on the memory. Generally, the data that is written in the read-only memory is done by the OEM, that is the original equipment manufacturer. So when a PC or a laptop is at the construction site, the data related to loading of the system is stored in the ROM. And then when you boot your system, the system reads the data from the ROM. So that is why it is called a read-only memory. So once the data is written into the memory, it can only be read. But a number of variations that are available nowadays that allows you to even make changes into the ROM. ROM works with a read-only operation. It is used where the programming requires no change and also in the embedded systems. So generally with the washing machines and whatever smart devices that you see, all are accompanied with the ROM. It is used in peripheral devices like printers, and it is also used with the calculators. So the types of read-only memory that we have, the first one is called PROM, which is known as programmable read-only memory. Next we have is EPROM, which is known as erasable programmable read-only memory. Next we have is EEPROM, that is electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. Now what is a PROM? This type of ROM, that is the programmable read-only memory, is a very time consuming and a very expensive concept of the memory creation. This is used in the very early programs or the systems. Nowadays, you do not find the systems using the PROM. It can be coded by the user, but once coded, the data and instructions, it cannot be changed. So that means PROM is a type of random read-only memory in which once the data is coded, it cannot be changed. So once you perform the lock operation, the data inside it cannot be changed. It is used to store permanent data in digital electronic devices. It can be bought at a low cost as compared to other memories. Next is erasable programmable read-only memory. This is the type of memory that can be reprogrammed. That means once it is the ROM is available, the data has been written into it, and the system is available with the user, the changes can still be made into the ROM. We can erase the data from it and reprogram it. That is, erase all the previous data by using the high voltage ultraviolet light. So the next is called the EEPROM. It is quite similar in operation to the EPROM, but the only difference lies in the way the data is erasable or modifiable in the ROM. The data can be erased and reprogrammed by applying an electric charge. There is no need for ultraviolet light, and we can erase only portions of the chip. There is no need to erase the whole memory, but we can also remove the data from certain portions of the chip. So this is the version that generally we find in the systems nowadays. Secondary storage devices. Like the primary memory we have, which is much more costlier than the secondary storage devices, and it is basically used to store the instructions and the data that we want to access in a fast manner, and it is also smaller in size, whereas secondary storage device are certain auxiliary devices that are much cheaper than the primary memory and are used to store bulk data permanently. So some of the types of secondary storage devices are magnetic tapes. It is used for taking backup of the data as the cost of the magnetic tapes is very less. The tape contains some magnetic fields. Magnetic tapes are used for accessing the data in the sequential form. You must have seen the audio tapes that were available in the past. If you are playing the song number one, there is no way that you can directly jump from song number one to song number three. You have to move in a sequential order. You can just speed it up by pressing the forward button, but there is no way that you can randomly access the data in the magnetic tapes. The next is magnetic disks. This is also called as the hard disk, and this is made up from a thin metal platter which is coated on both sides of the magnetic disks. As there are many plates or platters into a single hard disk, so you have um, one plate and you have thousands of plates which are mounted one over the other, and the distance between these plates is very less, and all the plates are made from the magnetic material. So magnetic disks are used nowadays to save the data in the form of a hard disk. Next is optical disks. You must have seen the CDs and the DVDs. These are also known as optical disks. So the optical or compact disk are read-only memory. Nowadays you have the rewritable compact disks as well. The data is stored in the disk in the form of tracks and sectors. So you have a whole one plate which is further divided into tracks and sectors. The whole disk is divided into number of tracks, and the single track is divided into number of sectors, and the data is eventually stored inside the sectors. The size of the sectors in the middle is much smaller as compared to the size of the text sectors at the outer areas. The last is a magnetic drum. It is a direct access or a random access storage device. So you can access any location randomly. So the time taken is less as compared to the sequential device like a magnetic tape. A magnetic drum, also referred to as a drum, is a metallic cylinder coated with magnetic iron oxide material on which the data and programs can be stored. Generally, there are what we use is the magnetic disks. There are many secondary storage devices that have become obsolete, like floppy drives. The size of these disks is increasing day by day. The solid state memories are also coming into place that are used to store the data. So I hope you were able to understand what are the different components of a computer system. The earlier slides just gives you an introduction to what are the different components, and then one by one, the brief description has been given of what these components do and how many types of components categories that we have for individual components. So I hope this lecture was very useful. Now you will be able to identify how many different types of components a computer system have, what are their roles, and how many types of component devices that we have in a single category. Thank you very much.